Hey everybody, it's Mark, Dr. Deadwax, and it's time for another edition of the Inbox Challenge 2. This is day 5. And today's numbers were picked by Chad Everett. And Chad Everett is a newer member of the VC. Maybe 2 months he's been making videos. Great new member. He shows really interesting music. He's got a really varied musical taste, and he makes good videos. So I will put a link to him down below, and check out his channel. Subscribe to him. You won't be disappointed. So Chad gave 5 numbers. I did 5 numbers. And let's go. Up first is Stanley Turrentine, the Look of Love. Turrentine. Including This Guy's in Love with You and MacArthur Park. This is Blue Note, a later 60s Blue Note release, and quite the gatefold package. This is on Liberty. This is a standard Blue Note label Liberty release. And it has Van Gelder and the Dead Wax. You can see it there at midnight. So that's what the Van Gelder stamp looks like. This was a $2 record, sold as is. Pretty scratched up, pretty noisy when you play it. Not a record you listen to critically, like for critical listening sitting in front of the speakers, but a good record to listen to from the other room. Let's just put it that way. But I couldn't leave it for this like almost perfect cover, except for like this little tiny split there. So I have a good cover at least, and you know, for a lot of people this would be a great copy. It sounds really good though. Some people are down on the Liberty era Blue Notes. I think they're amazing, and they're priced right. I mean, clean ones are 20, 25 bucks. So next up is yet again, I think 5 days, 3 of them have pulled a Celtic record out of the collection. This is Vin Garbutt, When the Tide Turns. And Vin Garbutt has been playing Celtic music for over 40 years. He's been Folk Musician of the Year 1 year in Britain. This is on Celtic Music. This is CM050. This is a British label. This is a British pressing. He's a Celtic folk artist who's British, and he plays music from Britain, Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, that kind of stuff. And I think I got this at a show. I'm not entirely sure. It's a good record. He's an excellent musician, and he does really good music. It's just kind of your trad folk, trad Irish folk kind of sound, traditional Celtic almost. It's not quite as Irish as some stuff, but it's traditional folk. It's Celtic. I really enjoyed it. That is, I think, his biggest selling release. I think he's got. That was the 8th record he put out. He's been putting out records since 1972. He still plays gigs all the time. I think he's coming to Edmonton. He's doing like a 1-show gig in Edmonton and then back to Europe for the next one. So obviously people are willing to pay for him to come and perform for them. So I could recommend that record. I'll listen to it again. My wife and I, we both really enjoyed it. Next up is David Newman, House of David. Sometimes known by his nickname, David Fathead Newman. And that's the back cover, and as you can see, this was a radio station record. Sampler, and that's what these are, filing codes. And I picked this up at a show from dealers who have bought most of the CBC library from across Canada. I know they bought Windsor, they bought Winnipeg, they bought Vancouver, a few other places too. And this was $5. Canadian Red Atlantic. The record is absolutely mint. Absolutely perfect. This is the best Red Atlantic I own. The most listenable, the sweetest condition, and really good music. I hadn't even heard of this record until I saw it, but this is just a great, great record. It's got some really interesting stuff on it too. It's got a cover of Just Like a Woman by Bob Dylan, which is really well done. A Red Atlantic. This is a Red Atlantic that was pressed at Quality. Red Atlantics were pressed at Quality, and they were also pressed at Kinney, and then they were finally pressed at the RCA Smith Falls plant. So this is, I think they went Quality, Kinney, RCA. So fantastic record. Wow. I love Fathead Newman though, so and that's the second or third best record by him in my collection. Next is a Lenny. Do we all remember the Lenny collection? For those of us that don't, I bought many records from a store that had bought a collection off a fellow named Lenny. And Lenny signed every single record he owned. Sometimes he signed them multiple times. Sometimes he signed the front cover, the back cover, the inner sleeve, and the label. This Lenny was only signed on the cover. He must have had a tough day. And the interesting thing about Lenny was he bought 2 of every record, and he signed every record, both copies. And I bought both of these that he had, that the store had for this, because these were like $1 because he just defaced the shit out of everything. But there were 2 copies of PFM Cook there, and I couldn't find the other one just for a lark to show it. But now I don't know if Lenny had friends who were assholes, or if Lenny was just an asshole, or Lenny had a problem, but it might be indicative that he had a problem if he signed both. Now I could see buying 2 copies if you had asshole friends and you had a loaner copy for your friends, and then your secret stash at home for you. But you wouldn't need to do this to the secret stash, so I don't know. But this is on the green Manticore label. And like with most Lennys, it's been played many times. Some of his records are completely partied out. I bought this just to hear it. I like PFM. I'm not overly familiar with their music. But this did not really grab me. Sometimes when you listen to a live record by a band that you don't know, it blows you away. An example of that is Waiting for Columbus by Little Feat. I was not familiar with Little Feat's music, really. Like a couple really bad things from late in their career. I saw them live when they opened for the Allman Brothers. Well, when Jeff Healey opened for them, who then they opened for the Allman Brothers. And that was in like the late 80s. And they were fine, but I wasn't a fan. And a few years ago I heard Waiting for Columbus, and you know, that record is a live record, and it just blew me away because it's such an amazing performance and it's so well recorded. This record, you know, I'm not a huge knowledgeable fan of the music, so this record and this recording didn't really grab me. But it's a Lenny. One day I'm going to have to get all the Lennys together. When I'm digging bins, I'm going to have to put a Lenny bin aside, and then I'll do a show of the Lennys. Some of them have his last name, too. Fucking Lenny. And this next one, I want Bobby Z to just look away. You don't want to see this, Bobby, okay? Honestly, you don't. This is not going to be easy for you if you watch this. So just turn it off, okay? I said turn it off. Are you done? Is it off? Okay, Bobby's gone. This is a UHQR by Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab record, an original master recording, an OMR, a MoFi OMR, a UHQR, ultra high quality record. These came in a box that some people park their car on. And they came with a little pouch in here that you put your certificate of authenticity in. And they came with a record protector thing. They came with some advertising. I mean, these are stickers, album covers. And it lists all the stuff they released, including the fact that they released high fidelity cassettes. That was a joke. There are high fidelity cassettes, but. And then there's like a piece of foam, and then there's the record, and then there's another piece of foam. So anyway, this one's just completely decimated, and this one, they all come with this generic front cover, and then what it is on the back is listed on the back. And this is Supertramp Crime of the Century, and this is number 882. And they only released 5,000 of these, and it has the track listing and everything there. Split at the top. And a friend of mine, he gave me this when I was at his house one night. He said, we were talking about these. He has them all, and he has 3 of these. And I was saying, like, you know, these are just stupid expensive. And he said, I bought one off eBay years ago that was crap. So here, take it, have it, take it with you. See if you can make something out of it. And I cleaned the shit out of it, and it's still a crackling stack of wax. It was obviously played a lot, and it has the telltale sign that it was left on a turntable. Or taken out of the turntable and just left somewhere. And one of the ways you can tell that is, you know, you take a record and you just throw it down somewhere. And then it sits there for a long period of time, but it gets moved around. And it just gets, you know, people shuffle through stuff and the record moves a little, and it moves a little, and it just keeps kind of just moving back and forth on a surface. And if there was something on the surface, you get these spots, these areas, these regions that have little scratch patterns in all kinds of different directions. They're not all in one direction. They're like hash marks that are going backwards and forwards and angled and everything. And this record has a couple of these patches, like this, in a couple spots. And when the record goes by those spots, they have like this kind of low grade, errant crackle, like scatter, as it passes through the scratches. And there's just no way to get them out, but these are just fucking incredible. This is where the concept of weighty vinyl came from. These were 200-gram recordings. And unlike most 200-gram recordings that are released today, or the 180s that, you know, that are invariably 90% of them are just pieces of shit, these are brilliantly well made and are recordings of brilliantly well recorded pieces of music. So this record, when it plays above the low level noise, is unbelievable. The bass extension, I've never heard this record with this bass extension. I have the MoFi of this, which is crap. Well, I have the MoFi of this, which is okay. Most MoFis are never as... You could... Almost typically I can find you a better recording than a MoFi of almost every record that's out there. So, but this is just phenomenal. I've heard first UK pressings of this, and this is better than a first UK. There is thunderous bottom end of this record and incredible upper end detail. And you know, it's dinosaur rock. For most people, it's played to death. It's classic rock-a-size, you know. I doubt Big Star spins this. His head's probably exploding that I'm just talking about it for this long, but it's still a classic record. It's still a masterpiece in its own right, and I like to visit it every so often. It's good to reset the palette with, in a way, and it's nice to revisit the classics. And I'm really happy to have that. This will, even with the noise, this will be the copy I spin from now on for the parts of it that are just stunning. So, Crime of the Century, it's a classic. I mean, it's Crime of the Century. It's dinosaur rock at its finest. PFM, Cook. I don't think that's necessary. David Newman, House of David, one of Fathead's finest. One of Fathead's finest. Vin Garbutt, When the Tide Turns. If you like traditional folk from the British Isles and you ever see this, I can recommend it. It's funny that the Inbox Challenge this year has caused 3 Celtic records to surface in 5 days, when I don't think one surfaced last year. And there's tons in there. It's just such a random thing that happens. And then finally, Stanley Turrentine, The Look of Love. And this is a good record. It's kind of slightly schmaltzy, but not in that later Creed Taylor overproduced syrupy way, if you know what I mean. So, 18.5 minutes, that's long enough for me. Chad, thanks for picking the numbers. Everybody, thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, being with me through this. Have a great day, everybody. Keep the record spinning.